Welcome back to Bonded Voices. Today's topic is, what is your social responsibility? We get inundated daily with social credit scores and social media topics of what is politically correct and what's not correct. And today's topic will discuss what is the social responsibility of a individual and how we fit into this world. This is Loren.
I'm Greg.
And I'm Ian.
So who wants to kick this one off?
Well, I think when this topic comes up, I think of the idea of you need to do your part. You got to carry your water, whatever terminology you want to use. But the idea of this is, my interpretation could be very different than yours or anyone else's. Do I need to cover my roof with solar panels in order to do my social responsibility? Or maybe I feel like my social responsibility is just bringing my own reusable bags to the grocery store so I'm not walking out with their plastic bags.
That's a good point. I mean, we're pushed all the time to have electric vehicles and solar this and wind power here. And how are we adding to it, or are we ignoring it? I know we have, like in the Phoenix metro area, if you don't have solar panels, you know, the sales guys haven't got to you yet, I guess, because everyone's got solar here. So
it's interesting you say that. I did a little bit of research on this topic, and the data, it's a few years old. In 2020, the data stated that 3.7%, not 3.7 million, 3.7% of residential homes in America had rooftop solar. So if I'm a solar salesperson, that's a pretty good market.
That's huge opportunity.
Huge opportunity.
Well,
now, I don't know what those numbers are like in 2023. That was just the most recent information. And I cross-referenced a number of different sources, and it seemed to be that was the one report that everybody
It probably
referenced.
hasn't grown that much. Because remember, when did they start? In 2000, putting solar panels on? So they've had 25 years of it, or somewhere close to there.
well, and solar panels only have, what, a 25-year lifespan?
So those early adopters, yeah.
Yeah, so early adopters are ready for the next batch.
Sure. And you know, the state of California was pretty aggressive on some of the rules that where some new developments actually required that they had solar on the rooftop. That was part of the deal. And there's always going to be some arguments of what's good, what's bad. And so I think part of the question is, because I really like rabbit holes, is in order to get society to make an adjustment, is it better to incentivize or to regulate?
But does that play into... is that a forced social responsibility at that point in time? And look, I'm a huge believer in we are a society, and as part of being a society, you have to be responsible. You know, not to the point of a HOA, but at the same point, you know, respectful and courteous, and you have to play your part. For instance, the other day at the major cross street up near the house, coming up the street, and a whole pallet full of something falls off the back of a truck right in the middle of the intersection. So cars are stopped, but everyone just starts driving around it. And I'm thinking, ugh. So I pull into the gas station and go, and in the middle of the road there's a pallet that people are sort of just missing, some people are clipping, and I go out, basically stop traffic, cars come from every angle, pick the pallet up and take it off the road. As I'm going off, people are missing me. I'm thinking, these people are... I wanted to throw it at one car.
Sure.
It was a whole pallet full of frozen broccoli. A woman comes, she goes, "Can I help?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just don't get run over." So we go, and this is that social responsibility bit, right? So we're starting to pull these things out at the intersection. But so many people are just like, "Get out of our way, we're trying to go."
Sure.
I'm like, there's a pallet full of broccoli in the middle of the road. Within about 5 minutes, there was about 20 of us pulling this thing out of the road. Bags of this stuff, taking them off to the side. But it was stunning to me. It was that 80-20 rule. There's probably 80% of the people are just like, get out of my way.
Sure.
And for me, I'm like, where is that? If everyone would have stopped, we could have cleaned that thing up in 3 minutes and been like, everyone have a nice day. But there's no social responsibility. So on that side of things, I'm big on that. We go out and clean up our neighborhood, which the city should take care of, and we pick up trash ourselves.
Well,
we all get together.
When people think that someone else will take care of it,
no one does it.
Yeah, no one does it. So that's where social responsibility. Yeah, my social responsibility is out the window because, hey, just like with the government will come in and take care of it. So that's my responsibility.
So the most recent economic information shows the federal government was the largest source of new jobs.
Yes. Yeah.
So how does that help or hurt the idea of it's my social responsibility?
Does that even play into it though? Because I think there's certain people who would look at a job as a job, whether it's working for the government. They don't see they're getting paid by the taxpayer because they see the government as just another corporation that has a paycheck for it.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I could see that. Where I was trying to draw the correlation was to Loren's statement of, if you think someone else is going to do it, then you feel like it's their responsibility and not yours. And so if the idea is, we're paying this much more in taxes and now we've got this many more. No, I can see that.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Then people are like, you know what, I'm fed up. We pay enough to maintain these streets. I'm not going to pull over and help this nice gentleman who's cleaning the street.
So what I was thinking was people are like, well, the police will get here soon enough and clean it up.
No, finally a police officer did turn up. And I was trying to wave this woman through who was intent on running somebody over. And he was like, she can wait. And he points at her and she was like, oh. But she just wanted to drive through us. I'm like, you've got to be insane. Like, and that was the stuff. It's funny. Malcolm Gladwell had a piece in his Tipping Point book where, to your point, Loren, where he said there was a woman being raped and they were in this middle of this whole apartment area. And someone saw, and then someone else was watching, and someone else was watching, and everyone thought someone else would have called the police. And no one did. And he was saying how when you it's a psychology in people where when you've got enough people who think someone else would have taken care of it, then no one takes care of it.
So I would agree with that 100%. I wonder how many times we've seen an accident, or you're the first one that goes up to an accident. How many people call 911 or call the police? Or
right.
Mm-hmm. I know I always call, and whenever I see something that I can
mattress in the road, whatever.
Or if I see an accident, whatever, I call. Because you never know, if you think someone else is going to take care of it, and then someone else thinks, just like that whole story right there.
Yeah, it's a big thing because I think if everyone has a certain amount of social responsibility, we live in a better society. When there's none, I think it's gone to hell in a handbasket.
Well, is it? I guess it's still society, but it's not community. If everybody's in self-defense mode because nobody else is willing to help to move the frozen broccoli out of the intersection, then everybody is fighting for themselves.
But isn't community and society the same thing, though? Or one would just be a smaller part of a bigger thing.
Community is a subset
of a society. Yeah, no, absolutely. But in the same way, it's that out of sight, out of mind. Like, west side of Phoenix, it's not our community, so we don't live there, we don't interact there. So, but then again, it's part of the greater society. Mm-hmm. But now, that doesn't mean that the government mandates something, everyone needs to dye their hair purple, that we should all do it to be part of society. So that's where you get that very fine line between good social responsibility and mandated government responsibility, where you go, hang on a second, what?
Yeah.
So there's you'll see a video every once in a while. You'll see different things where someone will say the term, just pay it forward. Someone helped me, I'm going to help you, you help somebody else. And that perpetuates this idea, in my opinion, it perpetuates the idea of your own, what you need to do to be a contributing member of society.
You played right into what I was thinking about, which was taxes. And that's in the same sort of thought, right? You have to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not a good person, if you don't pay it, if you're not paying it forward, well, you're not a good person. So it's playing along that whole psychological line of like, you know, I've even heard people say before, taxes are your social responsibility. How much? And like in the same thing in the pay it forward thing, that's really more of it should be a charitable situation, not a societal situation.
It shouldn't be forced.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest problem.
Coerced, right?
With the social programs that we have right now, where it used to be the communities would take care of the people that in need. They'd go to the churches, and people would take care of the community.
Yeah.
Now it's been offloaded to the government. So now everyone thinks, I don't need to donate anymore because the government's taking care of them. I'm paying my taxes.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of isolated portions of our society, our communities that we used to take care of.
But so let's take it up a notch. What are the social responsibilities, or what should people even think when it comes to social responsibilities? Like, you need to own an electric car, or you need to have solar panels on your roof, or you need to not water your lawn and get artificial turf, which is it the Stepford Wives or something where all the lawns are exactly the same?
Yeah.
But where are we going with that?
See, I can almost buy into the solar panel one because it actually benefits the homeowner in some form or fashion. But the electric vehicle, I'm not sure about.
See, the electric vehicle, we were in an Uber last night for coming back from an event, and the guy saying, yeah, I get like 250, 275 out of it, so not good for long trips. So if everyone's got an electric vehicle like that, now all of a sudden we're all not travelling very far. And is that the goal of that technology, is to keep us limited, where the infrastructure around fuel-driven cars is you go wherever you want because there's the infrastructure built for it?
Well, I think you're scratching the surface of a pretty significant topic of government control, or the potential for government control, or what's the mindset behind some of these subliminal messaging.
Well, the communists, the Maoists, the Marxists, the Nazis, they all had social responsibility.
Well, and we're seeing this social credit scores that are now being populated
based on the way you act in society, right?
Right.
So
how you donate, what you spend your money on, what you say on your social media will actually dictate your bank rate or your credit.
Yeah, the idea of the what's the term? The like the economic or the environmental crusaders that will fly on their private jets with two other people on it to burn all these fossil fuels to get to a big event and talk about how everybody else needs to be more environmentally conscious and
socially responsible.
Right. and we're the elders. We are smarter than everyone. Well, I'm not sure that's the messaging to truly get. If the goal is, hey, we really need to pay attention to this environment, to climate change, I go back to my earlier statement of, do you do it through incentivizing or regulating? So early on, the alternative fuel vehicles, Arizona had a debacle with it. There were all kinds of propane-powered cars that got preferential license plates that allowed them to use the HOV, and it also massively discounted the costs through a rebate through the government in order to try and get people to adopt that technology. Well, obviously that might have been the wrong implementation of a good idea. But even if we look back at the space race, there was a lot of financial incentive from the government provided to private industry to help fuel the space race rather than the government mandating it.
See, Greg, I love incentivization in private business, not through the government. Because that just means they're giving away more of other taxpayers' money
Sure.
to somebody else to push an agenda.
Absolutely. Well, follow the dollars.
Right.
Right?
But if it's a private business doing it and they're just like, well, we're doing it as a loss leader, that's fine. But the government doesn't make anything, so it can't lose anything.
Right.
Well,
So that becomes
It's
very troublesome for me.
Sure.
if it benefits society as a whole, I can see them incentivizing it, right? But if it's what we currently see in our current elected leaders, it usually only helps a certain few people and companies that they've heavily invested in. But I mean, there's, I'm trying to think of a good example of a federal program that was an incentive-based. I can't.
It's think
hard
of them,
to-
right? Yeah,
it
because
is.
they all
It's
sound good on the surface, right?
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, it's like, you are just end up discriminating against one set
Well, I
of
guess
people or another.
There were federal incentives for solar panels to begin with, right? They're not the great cost saver that everyone thought they were going to be. They're very expensive, and the savings is not as nearly as high as what they claim to be. But that is, that's a great incentive. If it saves you money in the long run, I mean, sure, the government paid for a portion of it.
But what would happen, right, if all of a sudden the government said there's some new disease out there and like your social responsibility is everyone has to take a certain vaccine for it? Should everyone just get on board because it's socially responsible at that point, or do you get a chance to make your own discernment about it? Not that would ever happen, but it's just a hypothetical.
Sure.
But
that would be terrifying. If
right?
it did.
But again, war.
Yeah.
You need to sign up if you're in this age group to go fight for your country. Is that a social responsibility thing that you have to do?
Well, look at World War II, how people responded to that. It was a social responsibility to go to war.
Yeah. Oh, they had to paint that we want you, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at countries like Israel, Switzerland, and others where you have to serve in the military between the ages 16 and 18 or 18 and 20. You have to do at least 2 years as part of your social responsibility. It's an interesting topic. It's like, it makes me wonder, because as I go back to what I said earlier, like I want to be in a society, a good society, but not one where you're one with free will.
The problem that we have now is that we live in such a narcissistic society that no one's doing it for the social aspect of it. Or the social responsibility aspect of it. They're doing it for their own. So at some point, you're going to have to incentivize people to be better people.
Do you think?
Or maybe I'm just being cynical of society.
See, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Greg. The whole idea of incentivizing and government money just...
It doesn't have to be government money.
Like
it has to be...
But how else do you incentivize society without it being government money?
That's a good question.
There's no Bank of America's not going to go out there and say, hey, we're going to incentivize everyone to... they're not big enough. They don't represent everyone, where the government's the only entity that supposedly represents all of us.
So, most of what is put out on the airwaves, let's talk about the traditional 6 o'clock nightly news. Most of that information is negative. Most of it is selling marketing, trying to get people to tune in at 6 o'clock to hear about the latest disaster, the latest murder, the latest economic crisis. This was probably 8 years ago, maybe. Some family of mine that lives in another state, they sent a snippet from the news that was actually a feel-good portion of the news. And it profiled a youth softball game going on, and the sportscaster was actually doing like the play-by-play, but there's one child that's chasing a butterfly and another one that's watching an airplane fly by, but making it sound like a legitimate event. And that feel-good piece, one would get done with that, they'd watch it and they'd be like, you know what? Society's pretty good. You know, I forgot to look at the trees and see the colors of the leaves changing, what have you. So are we to the point of where, as a society, we're not worried about our social responsibilities, we're worried about our personal responsibilities because of all of the factors and the things that we are exposed to on a daily basis? Is there not enough? You had the right idea of, you know what, there's a problem here, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to pull over, I'm going to take a few minutes of my time. You probably didn't put a whole lot, I'm sure you thought about it, but didn't think, all right, this is a life or death situation.
I thought it could be the way people drive.
Right.
But I'm sure I did think about it as being a socially responsible thing to do.
Sure. And you very easily could have been like, oh, somebody else take care of that.
That's the easy choice, right?
And so are we, as a society, getting so angry, so fed up, because everything's to the extremes right now. Everything has to be so loud. Does that impact someone's willingness to stop and pick up the frozen broccoli?
I think it does, because I think if you're pissed off at the government and pissed off at society, you're not going to be socially responsible. So it definitely drives that. See, I think if you look at it, social responsibility starts big, macro, and comes down to micro events. Mm-hmm. Don't throw the banana peel in the street. Like, we played golf with these guys the other day, and they were from Colorado, and they took their banana peel and threw it in the desert. And I think, if I remember rightly, there's certain Arizona animals that's toxic to them. Even though it's biodegradable to a point, right? It's actually kill a few animals in the process. So don't throw banana peels in the desert, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Put them in a trash can. But I think that's the thing. It's like, it starts with macro stuff, the big things. Sign up for war, that sort of thing, and then comes down to small things like trash, keeping our neighborhoods clean, reporting things that are going on, and just watching out for your neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also social graces. Holding a door open. I was at the grocery store earlier tonight, and with one of my kids, and a lady said, "Oh, can you get this from the top shelf for me, please?" Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think holding the door open is a social responsibility, and so is helping out someone who needs a bit of help. That's part of it.
We're at my daughter's graduation today, and we're in the parking garage, and there was no elevators, just stairs, and there was a elderly lady that had boxes she had on a cart she was trying to take down. We stopped, we helped them bring the cart down, and went on our way. We could have easily just
excuse me, can you get out of the way?
She'll get those down somehow, but we stopped, did our thing, helped them, and then we went on our own way afterwards. So wrapping this up, what would we do to have people be more social?
I think you've got to be conscious of what is your social response, and ask the question. Even write it down on a piece of paper and say, what do I feel? And maybe even in the adverse of it, like, what do I not do that I should be doing? To be like voting.
Yep.
Like they just were saying today about how many people didn't vote in 2020 who are going to vote now. Some of them are new, but some of them just like sat it out last time. That's a social responsibility. So I'd say write it down, and write down what you're doing, what you're not doing, and just take stock of yourself. Look, there's nothing wrong with being trying to be a better member of society.
Well, think about how we met each other. We all volunteered in a little league.
Yeah, absolutely.
Volunteered for the community. We all, not that we, had a bad time coaching, but we all coached and had fun.
Yeah.
And
Well, and to that point, it was a great experience for all of us. And we didn't do it I didn't do it for me.
yeah,
Did it for the kids and the community. And lifelong friendships were formed out of that.
Yep.
And it wasn't ulterior motives. We didn't do it planning on, hey, you know what, 7 years from now we'll do a podcast.
exactly. So I think as we're wrapping this one up, if anyone's out there looking for another group to join for coffee group, go out to Bonded Voices, and maybe you can start your own group or join a group that's already existing out there and join the community of Bonded Voices. And that's it for us tonight. This is Loren.
This is Greg.
And I'm Ian. And we'll see you next time on Bonded Voices.